Hello, 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 beautiful souls. Welcome back to another session of Sacred Wellness. This is a space where we explore healing, awakening, embodiment, and the quiet, sacred moments that help us return home to ourselves. Today's conversation feels especially beautiful because we're entering the energy of the spring equinox. What I love about this time of year is that it gently reminds us that transformation doesn't always come through life's dramatic changes. Sometimes it comes through the small sacred spaces woven into our everyday lives. It may be the way we make morning tea or the way that we breathe before responding to someone. It may even be the way that we pause and allow ourselves to feel in the moment. If you're joining us today for this conversation, it's Keegan Smith, my beautiful monthly co-host. Welcome, Keegan, to the show. So happy you're here today. It's third Thursday. It's always an excitement.
It is. And it's a nice check-in.
It really is. So let's start. Let's talk a little bit about one of the things that I've been reflecting on recently is just how much of our lives are actually made up of these like really small, simple moments that we don't always recognize. It's sometimes we're so on autopilot, myself included. We get on this autopilot. I've got to do the dishes. I've got to clean. Today is the day that I clean the bathrooms, and even taking a walk or doing your exercise. We have these things sort of compartmentalized in our lives, and we forget that we need to often stop in between those moments and take a few breaths. So, Keegan, we were going to just talk to you first since you were talking about this before we started the show. I want to hear your thoughts, especially that you're finishing up a winter season there, but you're still pretty cold.
Yeah. Yes, over here we do not have the luxury of 100-degree weather today. I think we're going up to 50.
Wow.
But yeah, I was just talking about this and how the energy lately, especially more recently, because things are hitting that spring momentum. You know that old saying, what it was it in like a lion, out like a lamb. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that's exactly like the energy of the spring equinox. And I started, recently trying to just, like you said, breathe and listen for a moment because we are so in that go, 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 go that we're just like not in the moment. We're not being present. And therefore, we can't create the magic in the mundane and how it's kind of like being in your face and forcing you.
Yeah, do you find too, like I go through moments of creation where I'm like creating and creating and creating, and then all of a sudden there's nothing coming. And whether that's writing or art or whatever I'm doing, you find that too?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like I've been recently focusing on like changing the language I use. And so before I used to feel like I needed more discipline in my life, and discipline to me just has a really negative connotation. So one of the things I'm doing is pivoting my mindset and I'm saying it's a devotion to. And I feel like when you start to think of it, because when we do these acts of um dedication, really, when we are sitting and creating, we're like dedicating that time to like something solely coming out from inside of us, whether it's writing, whether it's playing music, whether it's drawing or painting. Like it
Mhm.
really is setting that like creator time where we can bring from the inside and push outside. And so instead of like seeing that as a discipline, I've been trying more to see it as like a devotion to. And so it would make sense why you go through these periods, because you have to have the integration too, and then take the energy that you're creating when you are creating, and then you're inspired to then go create in your life and create little moments in your life. And so it would make sense. And even nature waking up, it's up and down. So you can't always be creating. You can't always be writing. You have to have balance in it, and being okay in the balance parts, because I think it gets kind of boring. And that's when you are to take your knowledge and create magic.
Yeah, I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that devotion. I love that term.
Yeah.
devoting your time to yourself and changing it up for what you need. And that's really what sacred wellness is all about, right? We are coming into balance in our life, especially at this stage in our life. I don't know about you, but I know about me. This balance thing is sort of out of whack. And I don't know if it's just hormonal or if it's energetic. And we are coming into my sign, which is Aries. And there's a lot of Aries going around this year. So I sort of feel like this fire within me and under me. And it's like, it pushes me through this momentum. But then I sort of also like crash. And it's like, okay, now's your downtime. And now is the time for you to sort of integrate all of that stuff that you've been doing in that momentum. And I was
Yeah.
always a little concerned. I think for me, like one of the hardest things is that period where there's rest.
Hmm. And we've been talking about that before, like in between, the shows, about how hard it is to really just rest and truly rest. How we've like created such like this idea that we have to be doing something to be productive. If you're just
Hmm.
sitting and resting, you're lazy. If you're taking a bath with the candles and music on and you're sitting in it for 2 hours, that's nonsense. But it's really not. It's self-care and it's rest. And I think coming out of the winter and going into the spring is like a perfect example of that. In some parts we were like frozen, literally. We couldn't do anything. We had to sit and rest. And like Mother Earth does it. We're a part of Earth. Like it makes sense. We have to. But I get bored with myself in those moments, I think. And
Yeah.
I have to sit with that sometimes. I'm like, why are you bored with yourself? Just sit and rest. You don't have to go do something. But doing things sometimes is creative and it is rest.
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing, right? So going camping for me, which I never thought I would say this. My husband is probably going to be like, "Yeah." I used to be a city girl, so I'm like, camping, no, I'm out. But there really is something to be said for even going camping because it sort of disconnects you from the outside world. And so even though you're doing things, you're with friends, you're with family, you're doing things, you still are in that sort of rest phase, right?
I agree. And it gives you time to absorb a different environment and remember the simplicity of things, but that things are also the same at the same time. And
Yeah.
it reminds you too to check out that it's way more peaceful to sometimes understand what's happening in the world, but not be so inundated by it, that you can have those moments of check out and ease the brain for a little bit,
Yeah, absolutely.
especially
I want to
nowadays.
talk.
Just much is
Yeah.
thrown at you.
It really is. There's so much going on. It really requires us to take a step back. I want to talk a little bit about the power of ritual. And I think ritual has sort of a negative connotation to it. So we
Yep.
could come up with another name to go along with that. I like your devotion. So let's talk about the spiritual power of devotion, which
Yeah.
really is like a ritual. So I find that there's something to be said for things that we really make intentional in our life,
Yes.
whether that is when you wake up and you meditate, or you pull cards, or you just sitting outside and feeling the sun. I hope you have a little sun out there and you're 50 degrees though. Do you?
Yeah, today a little bit today.
Okay.
But I
You know,
absolutely agree. And I see devotion too as like an act, you know? So whenever you're acting and putting your energy into something, you're you're dumping energy there. So you have to see it as purposeful, like you said, and intentful.
yeah, I remember somebody said something to me a long time ago too when I was first learning, and they're like, if you do the same thing, even if it's spirituality, repeatedly, daily, I'm going to meditate, I'm going to pull cards, I'm going to do yoga, and you do that repeatedly, days and days and days, that also becomes mundane. And so, even though
Yes.
you're doing things you love, like your work, that can become mundane. Just because we're doing energy work or writing or creating art, whatever it is, it still can become mundane, right? We get stuck in that phase. And I think a lot of what the spring equinox talks about is sort of going into that phase now where we have rested, right? You and I have really cultivated a practice of learning to pause between these things that we have going on. And so when we're moving into the spring equinox, it's a whole new ball game.
Agreed. And I think we're coming out of winter into the spring with whole new eyes about a lot of things. A lot of things were done in the dark and have come to light, even within our own immediate environment. You know what I mean? I don't know about you, but I saw my winter little nut piles around the house of little clutters and things like that that had to go, just because that wasn't where my focus was. My focus was more on rest than it was, you know, the physical. And it's like pushing all of these things. And when you start clearing in the physical, then you start clearing in other places of your life, you know? And for
Yeah.
me, I've been really seeing that because of the devotion to give myself the time, of the devotion to, you know, be intentful in what I need and want. And that has been, you know, very mirrored to the spring and the spring energy of like, get it all out, change, new, we're going to be planting things. We're, you know, it just doesn't immediately come back to life. You're planting the seeds, you're tilling the soils, you're doing the same in your energetic day to day. You're doing the same in your mundane. It's like these things have to be done, but why can't we see them differently? Why can't we
Yeah.
practice differently? Why can't we devote time differently? Why does it have to be like, okay, again, it's the spring. Again, we're here, you know?
I personally love the spring. So I'm an April baby. You're a Taurus, right? I'm an Aries. So this time
Maybe.
of year from me has always been sort of creating, being in that space to create. I
Mhm.
always felt like as I moved into the spring, it was like a breath of fresh air. And I lived on the East Coast too, so I recognize I participated in SAD because it was really hard. I mean, I don't know how you guys do it. If I'm away from the sun now for a few days, I'm like, oh man, this is so dreary.
I know. It definitely makes me want to move to another state. I look at other states where it stays more in the 70s all the time than it does than it does these like massive amounts of snow out of nowhere. But
Yeah.
again, for people like me, it also forces me to see things and forces me to
Yes.
change the mundane. Like the pillow fort in the living room on a Monday night because why not? Laugh about it. We're stuck in the house. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think
now
so.
I'm
And,
now
you
I'm like,
touched
let's get out. Let's go make magic outside. Let's go.
absolutely. You need a break in the monotony. You touched a little bit upon what's going on in the world and kind of craving this slowness or this separation. For me, because I'm a frequency holder, um, it's a little bit different. Like I see there's some people that are disruptors and they go out there and they're like disrupting and they're bringing
Yeah.
light to it that way. I'm a frequency holder. So my job is to just sort of hold the space in the light and the love and the peace. And to some that may be like granola or vanilla, but
Oh,
that's
it's
my
important.
job. And I will get in that disruptor phase once in a while. But we talk about slowing down. And I think before we come into the spring, like you said, you were talking about tilling the ground and the flowers starting to grow. Are your crocus starting to pop up at all now? Or is it still too
Yeah.
cold? Yeah.
And we're starting to have like all of our irises are popping and our daffodils and everything. And, you know, there's definitely signs of spring.
Yeah. I love that.
and
I used to
it
love that
calls to
time of
me like,
year.
go outside.
So we talk about the slowness and slowing down in a fast
Mhm.
world. I think, often, and I don't know if many people can recognize it, but our nervous systems, I did a show about this last week. So if you want to go back and look at it, you can. But our nervous systems are often so overwhelmed. But sometimes we get into that space where the mundane sort of becomes this way of regulating ourselves. It's like it's okay to do this, it's okay to stop, it's okay to rest, it's okay to breathe, it's okay to say no. We've talked about all these things, but often when the nervous system is unregulated, that's really difficult for a lot of people to do. But I feel like those moments when you are unregulated, like you need it even more. You need to go down, you need to create, whether you need to paint, draw, color, write, breathe, stretch, grow, whatever it is for you, run. For some
Yeah.
people, that's how they
Walk there.
regulate. Walk barefoot outside in the snow.
And everybody's regulation is different. And I really feel like there's this energy where people are seeking new, like they're seeking,
Yes.
new growth. And I think that is that energy we're feeling as well, because um they know they know that there's only one way up, right? Or there's only one way you have to grow.
Mhm.
And it's like we can seek new things. We don't have to
Mhm.
choose the same mundane thing that we've been doing. And
Yeah.
I think this is like a collective thing that's happening. People are seeking um new ways to see things, where before we were completely complacent in that turning off and doing the daily routine and creating such a peaceful space that we don't leave it at all, and then we're completely overwhelmed by anything exterior, or we expose ourselves to so much that our nervous systems and everything are just frozen. So it's like you're finding new ways to disconnect but really connect to yourself. And I think
Mm.
we're getting more and more permission to do it, where before we were not. And the permission is coming from within, it's not coming from external. And I think there's like this big shift happening, and it's pretty cool because I see it in myself, but I also see it on the outside with other people.
Yeah, people may have where before they weren't really open to that, but now they're like, "Well, I'm gonna try a new way to do this, or I'm gonna go out and do this new thing that I've never done before, and I'm gonna sort of just let it fly by the seat of my pants," sort of, right? Like, I just wanna try something new. I wanna have a new way.
Yeah, and I think like you were talking about the balance of it, and I think that is it's like so far right or so far left from what you've been doing that it actually balances itself out, because it's like a quick pull, and then you're able to like shift and focus. And
Mhm.
I think it's easier and easier to find moments of that shift than it is the opposite. And I think that is new with this spring equinox. I feel like this energy around the spring equinox is completely different. Same energy, but different theme, different hope, different vision, you know?
Yeah. You wanna share a little bit about what you do in the spring that makes it different for you?
I do have my mundane things that everybody I feel like has to do, like I have an HOA. This is when we have to pay fees and dues. This is when you do your taxes. This is when you start, decluttering the house. Like this is where you see where all the things piled up and you have to start clearing them because you're envisioning something new. And so for me, those mundane things are still happening, but I'm creating more devotion to them, like you said. And so I'm making it a point to dance while I'm cleaning. It sounds stupid, but I used to do that as a teenager when I would get sent to my room.
Yes.
Go room, I would blast my music and clean my room and be dancing and whatever. And it's like, just because the house is bigger, it's still my room. I can bring these parts of joy. And then I don't feel so drained when I'm doing these things. And I feel like the day is longer and I feel like I have more time that I'm accomplishing things within the day because I'm changing the devotion to it. But then I'm also letting things go. Like
Mm.
I know we've talked about this before, but even I or not letting it go, I feel as though it's been let go of the responsibility of making sure others are growing in this and seeing it. It's completely in like, okay, well, I have this figured out. I'm in a good place here. Where can I like give good dharma instead of, the same loop of karma? Where can I, give a little just because I love to do something versus, you know, I need money for this or I need some kind of compensation. Like there's even like this shift of monetarily things and stuff. I just let it go. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I have to do these parts of life. I will do it on the daily. And I'm not going to dream of that. I'm going to dream of the beach. I'm going to dream of vacations. I'm going to dream of, the dinner tonight that I'm going to have with my family. And like, how can I make it special instead of the same thing? And it gives you room to dream again. And it
Yeah.
sounds so silly, but it's like dreaming is our imagination. And our brains really are like dead without it.
And think about it, because if you do go back to when you were 16, and now I have a 16-year-old, I can tell you. She's gonna make me be bald, I swear to God.
She's so cute and sassy.
But she is so imaginative, and I remember being that age and life was so curious and you did things and, without even really giving any regard for what it is, you're just doing it and you're having fun while you're doing it. And so I try to take some of that into my life because I really think at midlife it really is going back to that. We have the knowledge now, so we have a lot more power within that of what we're creating when we're creating it, right? Because
Yeah.
you hit the nail on the head. We have to do these things. There's things in the physical world that we have to do. Do I enjoy cleaning? Hell no. Do I enjoy cooking? No. But those things are things that need to be done. And I
Mhm.
find, the more you do them, like you said, dancing, singing, I make up these songs around the house. She thinks it's so cringe. Like she's like, God, please. And she'll send videos to her friends of her mother dancing and make a fool. But I'm like, I don't care because that's what makes it fun for me. Like, even if it's just cleaning, you want to make it fun because it is mundane. And if you're feeling better about what you're doing, isn't that what it's all about?
Absolutely. And then when
Hmm.
you're feeling better constantly, then you're going to be having your energy shift and you're going to be more magnetizing of things that are in the same alignment. So if you're just changing the mundane into, oh God, I got to do this too. This feels great. Let's get through this, let's move our body. Let's multitask, because it's that energy is picking up again and multitask like dancing and just being a goof and shifting your mood when you're doing these mundane things really changes the way your nervous system's responding to, which is making the energy change and making you more magnetic to those kinds of things, those kinds of experiences. And so then when you do have to go out to do the next mundane thing of running errands or so, maybe when you stop and get your coffee, someone pays for it. Or maybe you're like, I got an extra couple bucks. I'm going to pay for the person behind me. And then it just keeps rolling. But we
Hmm.
forget to do that because we're so like blasted with all this negativity all the time. And it's so, it's
Or
so
responsibility, right? You got
yeah,
to be
and the
responsible.
responsibility
You
of
can't
it.
dance and sing and have fun while you're doing work.
You're an adult now. You can't have fun, And not for nothing, some people like hate that you love your life and are having fun, and they're just Debbie Downers too, and you could just see it.
Yeah.
So you have to really create, in the mundane. And it's stupid. It's so stupid to think like, oh, really, just dancing and changes it. Try it. It is
Try
like
it.
life. Yeah, like, and if it's stupid, it doesn't work for you, great. But don't stop trying. Like that's why we're here to learn and live and laugh.
Maybe it's singing. So tell me who else
Yeah,
out there sings around the house, makes up these silly songs about their cat and their dog and their daughter. So
I
I
do
can
the
tell her
same
I'm not the only one.
thing. Yeah, I do the same thing. Or we have like 80s rock day where we say everything to each other like an 80s rock band. And we're like, what do you want for dinner? Yeah. And Olivia's like, oh God. But then after a
My
while, she starts
parents are
doing it too.
so
It's
weird.
hilarious. Yeah. But after a while, she does it too. And it's hilarious.
And that'll be the thing she remembers when she's older.
And everybody's off their screens and everybody's like intermingling with each other and talking to each other and goofing off because you want to say more things, as stupid as it sounds, in the 80s rock band voice. And
Yep.
that doesn't cost any money.
It doesn't cost any money. We used to play ping pong dodgeball in the house.
Oh my God, what is that? You try to hit each other with it?
With a ping pong ball, a tiny little, but it hurts too. So
Love
you got to
that.
like really duck and dive to try and get away from it. But we are so hysterical doing it. And it's so fun. And the cat's trying to grab it and hit it. And so, things like that, it creates that momentum, like you were saying, that frequency of laughter. I think it's something
Yes.
so crucial. And we've really steered away from that. We've become so serious and so
Yeah.
constricted, right?
And we're forgetting like I think we're so involved in the things we can't control that we're completely forgetting all the little moments that we can control and all the little things we can do to really, because to me playing a game of ping pong dodgeball is magic. That is magic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're transforming the energy. You're transforming how you feel in your body. You're connected to everybody in the moment because you're playing. You're not thinking about the rest of the world. You're thinking about shit, dodgeball, and let me get you.
Let me get you before you get me.
Let me get you, and you're checked out and checked in.
Yeah. And I think in the spring equinox, it really calls us. We may not even realize, right? Because if you go back and I remember my grandmothers doing special things and they sort of did these little rituals and they called them kitchen witches back then, but they sort of got things ready, right? In that space. And I love going in the garden with my grandmother and picking. She'd have the most beautiful smelling mint that I just loved. And that I smell mint, and we were just in the garden shop the other day, and I rubbed my fingers and I had Sophia smell it, and I'm like, you see the smell? It brings me right back to 10
Right
years
back.
old,
Oh,
being
I
in my
love it.
grandmother's garden, and I'm like, those are such special moments that when you're such in this overwhelmed, rush society that we live in, that we forget to take these tiny, small moments.
Yeah, that all
Yeah.
of the senses are actually engaged, when you're
Did
in the
you have
garden.
something that brings you back to your childhood?
Yeah, tomatoes, the smell of tomatoes every year and sunflowers. As soon as the sunflower opens, it's like the most magical thing, especially when I had grandparents that kept gardens and my own mother kept a garden. And I always thought it was so amazing that the whole process of planting a seed, waiting for it to come up. Some didn't come up, some did. And then watering it every day, fighting off the squirrels trying to pick your sunflower seeds out of the
Oh, I
ground.
hated that.
Yeah, and watching these things grow, and you watched it in wonder. You didn't try to control it. You just tried to protect it.
Mhm.
And I think that part brings me back to childhood. Like, you didn't think about those kinds of things, you know what I mean? So anytime I'm in the garden,
Mhm.
tomatoes, sunflowers, just the smell of the dirt and the rain, it brings me back to a place where I'm like, "Oh, we are alive here." It
Yeah.
sounds so cliche, but it's like I remember being a kid and just wondering about the world and not so scared of the world.
Yeah. And I think smell is one of those things that we really relate to so much. It can be instant. My grandmother's perfume, it will bring me right back. She loved rose. And so that rose smelling perfume will bring me right back. And it's like we really sort of take that for granted in our world. Like just one smell, just one's music, right? One song. I can tell you where I was when that song started playing, like the Go Go's. You remember the Go Go's vacation song?
Yes. And I think too, or I'm going to ask you, don't you really contribute it to presence, like being present in those moments of your life that you could engage in all five senses and you could really take something in? And now, it still stops you, like to smell mint, you stopped and then you had a reflection and you went back to that place immediately, like time traveling. And it's like, you know, just from engaging in all five senses in that moment. And I feel
Presence
like
is
it's
a huge thing that a lot of us struggle with today because honestly, and I'll tell you from what I see with a lot of my clients is they don't want to be present in what they're doing. They're not happy in what they're doing. Yeah, often the most stressed out clients I have come from LA and they come so stressed out, so overwhelmed. They don't know how to slow down. And I think, how can you be present in something you're so unhappy in? And I think presence is that's requiring you to sort of look at that. Why do you have to be unhappy? What is there about it that you can change? Like, I ask them, and I ask myself now, it's sort of something I daily ask, but what am I life? How does my life want me to move through today? And I started asking myself and my clients those questions. And when you look at those, that's another way to start a good spring equinox devotion is how does my life want me to move through me today? Listening inside, tuning in,
yeah, that would be
presence,
very
slowing down. You're going to get the answer, and whether you want to listen to it or not is up to you. But try asking yourself that. How does life want me to move through it today?
and devote time to actually hear it, not just, you know, really devote that time to hear it. What does it?
Yeah.
And maybe stop in the most That is so powerful because you can use that to stop in the most miserable part and say, okay, how what would shift this right now? What would shift this? And then create that as the new foundation. Don't go back to the feeling. Create that, okay, every time I'm feeling this, I'm going to pivot and move this way.
Yeah.
And
Powerful.
yes, super powerful. And like, at what point in our life did we just accept the mundane, accept the overwhelm, accept all of it, and not keep trying to figure out a new way, not
Hmm.
keep trying to figure out a way to shift? Like, where did you stop and accept it? Because I
Yes.
had that conversation with myself recently, and I was like, wow, I stopped when I let myself be frozen in something, or I stopped because I don't know, I went into autopilot and I had to get out of autopilot to realize, hey, I need to shift and that I
Yeah.
can't live like this. Some people freeze because of health concerns. Some people just wake up one morning and they're shifted.
Yeah. I think, this time of year especially is asking us to really, what do we want to release from that, right? So go a step further and what do I want to release from this life that no longer serves me? And what seeds have I planted previously that are ready to grow now, but I'm still a little nervous about what they're going to look like when they come up, right? So that's another um, way you can journal and tune in and pull cards or whatever you do, to sort of get into that space of, yeah, I'm here and now it's starting to come and I'm a little bit fearful and I have these beliefs and thoughts coming up around this. But how can I finally release that now? Because it is asking you to, hey, let this go. In this spring equinox, I've been saying this all along. My husband hates this when I say it, but it's like I say the fire horse, it's either going to drag you or you're going to go along swimmingly with it. You have two choices in that scenario. So I know that I don't want to personally be dragged.
Exactly. And you want to be purposeful too in the parts that you know you're going to be dragged. So, if I know that if I don't take
Mm,
a moment to rest, let's just say, like, say you're somebody that's super overwhelmed in your
yes.
life and busy.
Hmm.
If you continue that way, something is going to give up at some point because it's out of balance. So, if you know that you're being drugged that way, why wouldn't you at least start making decisions to either shift that or have the end result be a controlled result instead of a wonder, you know?
Yeah.
So if I know I'm shifting like in a bad way, or I want to move out of a bad way, that devotion has to take over. And you have to say,
Hmm.
you know what? I don't have to, like, the tarot cards and things like that sometimes are overwhelming to people. It can
Yeah.
be simple as watching something every day and devoting time to reflect on something every day. It could be buying yourself a bird feeder and feeding the birds every single day and watching them
Mhm.
every single day. And you might give yourself 40 minutes, but that 40 minutes, I guarantee you at some time is going to turn into 80 minutes, and you're going to have so much reflection in your life watching birds in a devotion, then you could give yourself signing up for a class and making this big New Year's resolution kind of feeling kind of thing that's going to shift your life and change your life. It's like setting you up for failure sometimes. Sometimes making the commitment or devoting the time to do something so simple like water a plant every day. You can go to the
Mhm.
store and buy a plant and literally water it every day for a year and watch it for like 30 minutes out of the day after you water it. See if
Yeah.
anything happens, see if anything moves, see if anything shifts. It's like so silly, and you're like, you're crazy. Who has a half an hour to watch a plant? That's why you should watch a plant for a half an hour, because it's not going to be in your mind of just watching the plant. You're going to hear yourself and you're going to hear what your mind's trying to tell yourself and your body. And at first, it's going to be crazy. And then after you really start to get to the deep parts of it. You get to the whys, you get to the answers of devotion. You get to the where can I change in my life to make myself happy? Where can I
Yeah.
shift? Where can I put new attention? And it's slowing the mind and body.
Yes. I think you really hit the nail on the head. It doesn't have to be complicated. And sometimes
Oh,
the most powerful rituals are the simplest, right? I love watching birds. I mean, that's one of my greatest joys. I love putting food in the bird feeder for them. And so the cat and I sit there and watch the birds outside. And I watch the cat sometimes too, because I look at her and she's in her natural habitat, right? Her natural instincts are coming in. And I sort of reflect on that too. Like, the birds are so free, and then the cat is watching them and she's like in her glory, and so how do I pull some of what that simple stuff is into my own life and make that simplisticness a part of my everyday balance, right? Because we can't always be running the marathon, to get up to the marathon speed. Sometimes you have to take it slow and steady, and I think that's an important process for us as humans to be able to go through when we're moving through these seasons.
yeah, and I think what you said is so reflective too, because you're watching the birds and they have a system in which they go about, right? And then you have this second layer of the cat. And then you have this third layer of the environment that you're creating in watching nature. So like the whole experience is being facilitated because you decided to have a bird feeder. So
Mhm.
right there, you're the creator. And now you're observing your creation and you're seeing how the environment is around you. And you're seeing the layer of the birds and you learn their patterns in communication. And then you're wondering about the cat. When's she going to pounce? How is she watching the birds? That's hunter and prey. And then that can be reflective in my day-to-day environment instead of being like, why are people mean? Why are people hateful? Whoop, 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 whoop. Well, if that cat pounces and eats the bird, kind of shitty, right? But it's nature. Like
Mhm.
the cat eats, right? The cat's natural prey is birds and bunnies and things. People are the same in the world. So you have to you have to see the reflective nature in it, and I think it gives you the power back because you're observing what is real.
Yeah,
It's
we
not
often
always
forget that,
not
especially like
great.
when our environment is threatened. Like somebody asked me the other day, "Well, how are you always so peaceful and calm? And don't people pull you out of your peacefulness?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course people pull me out of my peacefulness, but most times I'm in a calm and peaceful place. So if I'm calm and peaceful, there's nothing that you can say to me that is going to pull me out of my peace. I'm sorry, but if I'm not in that peaceful, calm place, you can pull me out of that place easy." So I
Yeah,
think it's interesting how we look at that and we sort of shift our perspective into, just because someone's saying something to me doesn't require me to answer them. If you're yelling in my face, I have the full ability to walk away from you, because what you're saying isn't even important and you don't even matter in my space, in my world. And I think people forget that because they've been brought up to believe that requires an answer. And again, not to say that I may not give them an answer, especially if I'm not in my balance. But I think that's what we talk about, right? Is when you're in your balance in life, life is so much easier. Life is so much more
it's
fun. It's so much more balanced. You have more time. And people say, how do you have more time? You have more time because
true.
what you're creating is the time for the things that you love.
Yeah. And it's purposeful. So you feel like you have more time. Because when
Yes.
you're doing something you dread, you procrastinate, you push it off, and then the time goes really fast. When you're doing something you love, the time goes fast too, but it's more rewarding. You have energy for the time to continue.
Yes.
Where the other way, you're completely drained and you're done. And then
Yeah.
it's reflective. And you
So I
can
think
walk
it's been
away.
a great show today, Keegan. Anything else you want to add before we finish up?
Yeah, don't forget to just create magic. And creating magic is using your imagination and it's using a pivot point in your mind. And you can do it at any moment with the most simple things, the most simple things. Remember when you used to pretend as a kid too? You can start doing that. Like, did you ever wonder what it
Yeah.
was to be a trash man? Sucks to take the trash out. But what would a trash man do? Like, it's so stupid, but it makes you wonder. And when you wonder, your imagination starts to unlock again, and then your creativity comes back, and then you can create all parts of your life. Then you see the blue walls instead of a white wall behind me that's going to get painted soon. because I'm tired of looking at the white wall and I can change it.
That's right. And if you don't like it, you can change it again.
Exactly. And those are the things we take for granted that are creating the magic. Like it doesn't have to be the same all the time. We're the ones that accept it. So
Absolutely. I love that. I love that analogy. So
learn the
these moments, go ahead.
and just learn the devotion, like where you need devotion in your life, not discipline, where you need devotion in your life.
Absolutely. So these moments of devotion, there are small little practices that you can do, and learning how to move through your life with awareness, with devotion, with compassion, and with a deeper connection to the sacred within you. Keegan and I thank you for coming on, and watching us today and listening and commenting. And if anybody wants to share any of their experiences, we'd love to hear them. If there's any topics you want to talk about, send us a message. We'd love to come on next third Thursday in April and talk about what you want to hear about. We're willing to bring anything to the table. We are wide open, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
So until next
My
time.
Someone's testimony.
Absolutely. You have a wonderful day, and we will see you next month.